He emerged from his vehicle to greet a stunning young woman in her 20s who seemed to glide out of the beauty salon. Overjoyed by her new look, she arrogantly offered Jasper her full, evidently enhanced lips for a peck and twirled around, laughing as though entranced. She retrieved a packet of sour cream from her purse, approached them, and with composure squeezed the creamy substance straight onto the impeccable head of the astonished girl. Sarah and Jasper shared the same class back at the institute. Sarah was a slim, attractive girl, while Jasper was a modest, button-nosed fellow. She hailed from the city, whereas he was from a quaint rural town. Sarah would normally overlook someone like him, but she was intrigued as to why other girls were constantly fawning over him, hanging on his every word and laughter. Locals, too, would often bring him homemade delicacies. Sarah couldn't fathom what they found so appealing in him. Convinced she could never fall for such a plain-looking guy, yet she did, because Jasper proved to be a remarkable man. His humor was infectious. He was intelligent, compassionate, a skilled guitarist and singer. Most crucially, he had a knack for winning people over. Merely a few minutes in his company made anyone see eye to eye with Jasper, exchanging hearty handshakes with men or receiving dreamy stares from women. Nevertheless, it was Sarah whom Jasper adored. She felt somewhat honored that he was the object of many girls' affection. She felt no jealousy, secure in his devotion and loyalty. They tied the knot in their 5th year of college and initially moved in with Vicky and her mother. Fast forward 3 years, Jasper's folks sold his grandma's apartment and got him one right here in this city. Finally, they had a place to call their own. Sarah was over the moon and told her hubby she wanted a baby now, but Jasper was dragging his feet, saying he wasn't ready for fatherhood just yet. He opened up about his tough childhood, how he'd looked forward to New Year's Eve because he knew the presents from kindergarten, and then school would have candies and even chocolate. It was tough growing up. His folks were always strapped for cash. His dad was seriously ill but somehow never got disability. His mom, lacking education and being terribly scatterbrained, was always hopping from one job to the next. She'd been a nurse at every hospital in town, a saleslady in almost all the stores, and even worked as a ticket taker at the movie theater. Jasper reminisced about the days when they'd count every penny and stretch a loaf of bread for 3 days. To this day, he couldn't stomach sweet tea as they never had sugar, with his mom always saying it was poison. Given all that, Jasper was adamant. He wanted to ensure a financially stable life for his future child before taking the plunge into parenthood. Sarah had a different perspective. She knew many couples who weren't well off at all, but still found joy and raised kids, or sometimes didn't have any. The key was their love for each other. Yet, she refrained from arguing with her spouse. Her love for him was immense. That's why she was willing to be patient. After all, they were still quite young. Eventually, Jasper landed a great job in his field. Within a couple of years, he secured a promotion with a higher paycheck, followed by another and another. Jasper sold the apartment his parents had bought and purchased a larger one. He became a significant figure in town and convinced Sarah to leave her job, reassuring her that his income alone was sufficient for them. Initially, Sarah was delighted. She hadn't been as fortunate in her career as Jasper had been. Her workplace was rife with bickering, and her boss just ogled her, licking his lips, so she quit without a second thought. At first, Sarah threw herself into visiting various salons and hitting the gym, but she soon found it monotonous and not her cup of tea. Then she stumbled upon a cookbook and decided to amaze her husband with culinary delights every day. This caught her interest. She became so absorbed in cooking that it consumed all her thoughts. Time ticked away as Sarah busied herself at home, juggling chores, whipping up meals, and occasionally stepping out for groceries. Her mind often wandered to the thought of having a child, but each time, Jasper dismissed the idea with a wave of his hand. Every morning she prepared him breakfast and stood eagerly by, hoping for a word of thanks or a small token of affection. But Jasper would scarf down a single pancake and rush out the door, lately even forgetting to kiss her goodbye. Sarah let out a heavy sigh, convincing herself that her husband was simply overworked and drained. His job demanded every ounce of his energy. Yet, just like Sarah, he seemed willing to go to any lengths for the dream of a child. Given that, she harbored no bitterness towards him. While clearing away his barely touched breakfast, she couldn't help but let her thoughts drift. She strode over to the mirror and scrutinized her reflection. This year marked her 37th birthday. Wrinkles had begun to creep around her eyes, and the silver strands in her hair were becoming more noticeable. With a determined look, she realized she had to get herself together, not just physically but emotionally and mentally too. More importantly, it was time to have a serious conversation with Jasper about having a child. Delaying this any further was out of the question, as the risks were growing day by day. Sarah beamed. Perhaps today would be the day. After all, it was the perfect occasion for Women's Day. With a satisfied grin, she picked up her phone and called her hairstylist, securing an appointment for noon. Swiftly, Sarah tidied up the house, thawed some meat, boiled veggies for a salad, and decided to head out early. She had a few more items to pick up from the store for the evening's preparations. She strolled to the supermarket, grabbing candles, wine, sour cream, cheese, and then made her way to the beauty salon. Just as she reached the entrance, something caught her eye. There was her husband's car right in front. At first, Sarah felt a surge of happiness, assuming that Jasper had remembered their anniversary and had come all this way to surprise her with a kiss. But the kiss landed on someone else's lips. Sarah stood there, frozen in disbelief, watching Jasper fawn over a voluptuous woman. She instinctively clamped her open mouth shut and let out a gasp so loud it drew the attention of passers-by. The woman, flaunting long, garish nails, lunged towards Sarah in a fit of rage. But Sarah, acting on pure reflex, managed to restrain herself, holding Jasper in check. Jasper forcefully shoved his mistress into the car, yelling at Sarah, "We'll talk at home," before speeding away. Left standing at the beauty salon door, Sarah felt a wave of emptiness wash over her. Entering the salon no longer seemed to matter. Throughout the day, she perched on a stool in the kitchen, watching the solidified meat that she had intended to thaw for her husband's beloved chops. The pink trickle gradually made its way to the table's edge, bypassing the bottle of Jasper's cherished wine. As the first droplet escaped and landed on the floor, Sarah involuntarily flinched upon spotting her husband's scowl in the doorway. He carelessly tossed the raw provisions onto the cold surface, wordlessly pivoted, and strode into the room. Bellowing from there, "I'm leaving you." Sarah quivered and wept silently. She remained in that position throughout Jasper's entire packing process. Only after the front door slammed shut behind him did she slowly rise and approach the window. For countless years, she bid farewell to her husband in this manner, waving at him from the window with a smile. Each morning, he would tenderly kiss Sarah before departing. How was she to carry on without him? The next day, Jasper phoned Sarah to disclose that he had fallen in love with another, just like that, out of the blue. "I am aware of your unwavering devotion," he added, "that you loved me while I betrayed you for the sake of beauty. Therefore, after the divorce, I will leave you the apartment and all its contents. Additionally, I will provide you with monthly financial support, ensuring you won't need to work. Live on and find happiness." Sarah listened to her husband's words, but remained silent. Live on and find happiness? Did he truly comprehend the weight of his statement? Unable to bear it any longer, Sarah abruptly ended the call and wept once again. She then reached out to Emery, her childhood friend, imploring her to come over. The solitude had become unbearable, Despite the late hour, Emery sensed that something awful had occurred and hurried to her friend's home. Savoring wine from the very same bottle, Emery regarded Sarah with great compassion. "Yum, you say? Well, you won't shake her off that easily. Though in about 10 years, perhaps even sooner, she will manage to evict him from her heart." "Still, nothing is certain," remarked Emery. "Emery?" sobbed Sarah. "What am I going to do? I yearned for a child all this time. If I had a son, I wouldn't be as terrified of being alone, because a part of my beloved would still be by my side, but he never allowed me the chance to have a baby. It was too soon for him. Yes, far too soon. Maybe that's why he fell out of love with me, because there was nothing binding us together." "Absolutely," Emery assented, stifling a hiccup and concealing her mouth with her hand, before promptly continuing, "I've got it figured out. We need to spark his jealousy." "Jealousy?" Sarah questioned in astonishment. "From whom?" "Me." "From whom?" "Naturally from you, not me." "But as for whom specifically, that's something you'll need to ponder." Emery reclined on the couch, feigning contemplation, yet swiftly succumbed to a gentle snore only moments later. Conversely, Sarah found slumber elusive. She lay in bed, wistfully reminiscing about her blissful life with Jasper. Suddenly she cried out in terror, but quickly heaved a sigh of relief. It was Emery, stealthily invading her bedroom. "Are you awake?" she whispered, before exclaiming triumphantly, "I've had an epiphany. We've got a co-worker, Arthur. He's our boyfriend, so to speak. Granted, he's 3 years our junior, but that's what makes it intriguing. He's a cool dude, good-looking and divorced. His wife betrayed him with his own cousin, so I reckon he might be of assistance. Let's pretend we're seeking vengeance on our cheating husbands. Not for real, of course, but they needn't know that. And when Jasper catches a glimpse of you with Arthur, he'll comprehend what kind of woman he squandered. Men are territorial creatures, you know. And provided you don't lose yourself, draw him into your embrace. Perhaps he'll depart thereafter, but you'll still have a bundle of joy. With a bit of luck, that is. Worth a shot, wouldn't you say?" Sarah shrugged her shoulders skeptically, yet then envisioned a future where she bore a child with her beloved Jasper. Eliciting a smile, she consented. The ensuing day passed without a single call from Emery. Sarah even speculated that her friend had reconsidered, though she refrained from prompting her, as it felt awkward. Out of the blue, the doorbell chimed. Sarah swung open the door to find Emery accompanied by a striking, tall young man. His gaze fixed sharply on Sarah. Conscious of her minimalistic approach to makeup, just plain tap water lately, she felt her cheeks warm up. "Sarah, meet Arthur." "Arthur, this is Sarah." Emery introduced them with a significant air, laughter escaping her as they stepped inside. "Look at you two hitting it off. Well, I've briefed Arthur on what he needs to do. Sort yourselves out. I've got to run," she said, giving a playful wink before rushing off. Sarah felt a wave of confusion. Conversations with unfamiliar men had been absent from her life for so long. Recalling scenes from romantic films, she ventured, "Perhaps some coffee." Pausing, she added, "I've also got some cutlets and cheesecakes. Cooking has been my little escape recently." "Cutlets sound amazing," Arthur exclaimed with a smile. "The last time I enjoyed homemade cutlets was when my mom visited. My ex Evelyn couldn't cook to save her life, or perhaps just didn't bother." "And your cutlets, are they served with potatoes?" he inquired as they moved toward the kitchen. Sarah noted Arthur's voracious enjoyment of her meals and couldn't help but smile. Jasper had always appreciated her culinary skills, but never lavished her with the praises that Arthur did. "Sarah, you're a wizard in the kitchen. This is unbelievably good. I haven't tasted something like this in ages. You put my granny's cooking to shame." Leaning back in his chair, A grin spreading across his face like a cat that got the cream, he added, "I'm at your service now. I might even be handy around here. Got a leaky faucet or a faulty iron? Just let me know." Arthur exuded an effortless charm and warmth that captivated Sarah, making her yearn for his company a little while longer. It was then that she remembered her old broken hairdryer. As Arthur embarked on the task of uncovering the issue, Sarah opened up about her husband. The words flowed freely from her lips until she reached the part where her husband confessed to trading her for beauty. This revelation ignited a fiery indignation within Arthur. What a despicable man, trading you for artificial perfection. Couldn't he see that you are the epitome of genuine beauty? He's utterly. Sarah's response was silence, her head lowered, her cheeks blushing with delight. It had been so long since Jasper had showered her with compliments, even if they were uttered in jest. Sarah had long attributed his distant behavior to his heavy workload, but now she dared to entertain the thought that he had replaced her with someone younger and prettier. The notion of bearing Jasper's child fleetingly crossed her mind before she firmly declared, "Yes, she does. I love Jasper." The following morning, at Sarah's behest, Arthur dialed Jasper's number and relayed a falsified story. He claimed that his Aunt Ariana, residing in the faraway lands of India, had sent over a package of exquisite mementos specifically for her nephew. Arthur arranged to deliver the package at the restaurant precisely at 8 o'clock. Sarah knew Jasper's maternal aunt, who had married and moved to India, held a great fondness for her nephew. As she herself had no children and frequently gifted him with intriguing parcels, Sarah possessed complete confidence in this rendezvous. Sarah arrived at the designated restaurant at 8:30. Arthur awaited her by the entrance, already astounded by her polished appearance, her makeup expertly applied, and a simple yet figure-hugging dress, accentuating her natural allure. For a brief moment, Arthur was struck by the sight, squinting his eyes as if pained, before uttering in awe, "You are truly stunning." I cannot fathom a man who failed to appreciate the extraordinary treasure he possessed. A mistress who is both beautiful and kind-hearted, with a gentleness that knows no bounds. I would give anything for such wealth, and I would never trade it for anyone else. Sarah remained silent, exhaling deeply as she made her way into the hall. Taking a seat at a table, they ordered coffee and awaited the arrival of Jasper. True to his punctuality, he entered the restaurant with a brisk stride, immediately laying eyes on the elegant Sarah, accompanied by an unfamiliar man. The stranger held her hand, while Sarah wore a contented smile. Instantly, Jasper's mind was consumed with anger, and all else was forgotten. He strode directly towards the table where his wife sat, leaning against it and clenching his teeth in fury. "I believed you were suffering, leaving you with everything and providing financial support out of guilt. Yet you have already forgotten about me. Perhaps you have long been frequenting restaurants like this to seek out a new lover within days." Jasper withheld any opportunity for the bewildered Sarah to respond, extending his hand and shifting his attention to Arthur with a malevolent grin. "I will strip you of everything, the apartment, the money. Will you be needing it? But we shall see. As for you, wife, vacate my apartment by tomorrow. It is registered under my mother's name, in case you were unaware. So good riddance, and I will see you at the divorce proceedings." With that, Jasper swiftly departed, leaving Sarah to catch her breath and glance around with wide eyes. This was certainly not the way the evening was supposed to conclude. Arthur, too, realized that his presence had exacerbated the situation and attempted to soothe Sarah. However, she pushed him away and fled, tears streaming down her face. Days stretched on, during which Arthur persistently tried to contact Sarah to no avail. He even went to her residence, only to find it empty. The young man grew increasingly anxious for Sarah's well-being, burdened by a deep sense of guilt. His only desire was to see her again. Desperate for any information, He even approached Emery and inquired about Sarah's current place of residence. Yet Emery revealed that Sarah had expressly forbidden him from coming by for the time being, withholding the address as a result. But Arthur couldn't calm down, and for several days he hardly slept. His mind was consumed by thoughts of this extraordinary girl. It was already midnight when he couldn't take it anymore and dialed Sarah's number once again. Unexpectedly, he heard her voice, barely audible, saying, "Do you think I'm to blame?" "No, Arthur, it's all my fault. I couldn't hold on to my husband, and I resorted to deceit to keep him. Instead, I ended up alone with no job or money. It's all on me. Goodbye, Arthur. You're such a great guy. I envy your future wife. I'm certain you'll find a girl deserving of you next time, but I won't be able to witness it." "Sarah, where are you?" Arthur shouted, feeling a shiver creep into his chest from her words. But there was no response from Sarah. She had turned off her phone. "Tell me her address," Arthur yelled into the receiver. Finally, a sleepy Emery answered his call, and he rushed over to Sarah's apartment. It took him only an hour to reach there. He rang the doorbell, pounded on the door with his fists, but the girl didn't open up. In a fit of frustration, he kicked the old wooden door and ran into the darkness of the bedroom. There lay Sarah on the bed, surrounded by discarded medicine wrappers. "I bet Axel's first word will be Mommy," Sarah said slyly, squinting, and Arthur burst into laughter, giving her a playful kiss on her unutterably wrinkled nose. They stood outside the nursery, gazing at their peacefully sleeping 1-month-old son. Suddenly, Sarah's cell phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen, and the smile vanished from her face. "Who is it?" Arthur grew anxious, but she kept silent, leaving the nursery. Speaking quietly, she asked the caller, "What do you want?" "Really? Sarah got kicked out." She nervously chuckled. Emery had guessed it. "You couldn't hold on for even 10 years, Jasper. You see, you can go live your own life, but I'm perfectly fine here. You won't believe it, but I'm genuinely happy because I found someone who means the world to me, someone who will never betray me." Sarah hung up the phone, returned to the nursery, and embraced her husband, who gazed at their little Axel with immeasurable love.